You know, um, it is really interesting how we learn history when we are kids.
Oh, definitely. It's usually very basic.
Yeah, exactly. You walk into like a classroom when you are maybe 8 years old,
Right.
and there is usually some colorful paper on the wall. You see a picture of a little wooden ship,
Usually 3 ships, yeah.
right, 3 paper ships, and you see a picture of a very serious man in a funny hat. And you see a big date written on the board, 1492.
It is a very neat, clean little story.
It is. It is basically a fairy tale. There is a brave hero, a big ocean, a hard journey, and then a happy ending.
Right. You memorize the year, the teacher points to a map, and that is it. You think you know history.
Yeah, but then you grow up, and you start to look at the real world.
Which is much more complicated.
Oh, it is so much more messy, especially the history around that famous year, 1492.
Yeah, the paper ships do not really tell the whole story.
Not at all. You realize the real story is, well, it is really uncomfortable. It is not clean.
Which is exactly why we are here today.
Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everyone. We are so happy you are here with us.
Yes, welcome.
So, our mission today is to look very closely at a famous history story, the story of Christopher Columbus.
But we are not going to just read from a school book today.
No, we are not. Now, before we start, I want to give a quick note to you, the listener.
This is important.
Right, because this topic is very big and it has some heavy ideas. We want to make sure everyone can follow along easily.
So we are going to speak very clearly today.
Exactly. We're going to speak clearly and slowly and very deliberately.
We will use simple, easy to understand words.
Right. If you are learning English, or if you just want to really think deeply about these ideas, we are taking our time today.
It is a careful deep dive.
Yes. So we're going to look at this history through 3 big ideas. The first word is discovery.
Right.
The second word is contact.
And the third word is consequences.
Yeah, consequences. And here is the big hook for today, the big problem we have to think about.
The tension, right?
Yes. For a long time, Columbus was just called a brave explorer, just a guy who sailed across the ocean.
But for many other people, he means something very different.
Right. For many people, especially native peoples, his name brings up feelings of pain and suffering and loss.
History is almost never simple.
No, it is not. A single event can bring new people together, but it can also start a very painful time of violence.
And that is the challenge for you listening right now.
Exactly. How do we keep both of those truths in our mind at the same time?
It is a hard philosophical question.
It really is. How do we understand the brave sailing part without ignoring the terrible suffering part?
Well, to even start answering that, we have to go back in time.
Right, you cannot start a story in the middle.
No, you have to look at the beginning. We have to go back to Europe in the late 1400s.
Okay, let's go there.
And we have to ask the most basic question. Why did those ships ever leave Europe in the first place?
Yeah, that is a great question. Because I think a lot of people just assumed these explorers were like scientists.
Oh, right. Like they just loved the ocean.
Yeah. Like they just had a lot of curiosity and wanted to draw new maps.
But that was not the reason at all.
It was not just about being curious, was it?
Not even a little bit. If you look at Europe back then, the big push was not curiosity. It was, well, it was a need for money.
Desperation, really.
Exactly. European countries, the kings and queens, were desperate for trade.
Trade with who?
Mostly trade with Asia, because Asia had goods that were very, very valuable.
Like what kind of goods?
Things like spices for food, silk for clothes, and of course, gold and precious metals.
Right. Which makes a lot of sense. If you could buy those beautiful luxury goods in Asia and bring them back to sell in Europe, you could make so much money.
You would be incredibly rich. The profits were huge.
But there was a big problem, right? The road to get there.
Yes, the supply chain.
The supply chain. Let's talk about that.
Well, the roads that already existed to get to Asia, they were very long.
Walking across land or sailing around Africa.
Right. And they were very dangerous. But the biggest problem was that other powerful countries controlled those roads.
Ah, so there were middlemen.
Exactly. Every time your goods went through a new country, that country took some of your money.
They made you pay taxes, basically.
Right. It was very expensive.
You know, it is kind of like modern businesses today.
How do you mean?
Well, think of these European countries like big competing businesses.
Okay, yeah.
They all want to sell things to the same people, and they're all trying to find a faster, cheaper way to get the goods.
A supply chain shortcut.
Exactly. A shortcut.
Yeah.
Because if you find the shortcut, you do not have to pay the middlemen anymore.
And then your country becomes the richest and the most powerful.
Right. So I have to ask you this, because this is a big misunderstanding.
Sure, go ahead.
Columbus comes to the king and queen of Spain, and he says he has an idea for a shortcut.
Yes, he says, let's just sail west, across the Atlantic Ocean.
Right. But is it safe to say Columbus had no intention of finding a new continent at all?
Oh, absolutely safe to say. He had no idea the Americas were there.
Wow. So he was not looking for a new world.
No, he thought the Earth was smaller than it actually is. He thought if he sailed west, he would just hit the other side of Asia.
That is wild.
He just wanted a shortcut to the spices and gold.
So we need to think about this English word, exploration.
It is a tricky word.
It is, because today when we say exploration, we think of like going to space.
Right, like astronauts.
Yeah, astronauts.
Yeah.
Or scientists going to the bottom of the ocean. It sounds very noble. Very good.
But in history, exploration is often a nice word used to hide something else.
What does it hide?
In this case, it was strictly about money. It was about gaining power and building a big empire.
So he wasn't a noble scientist. He was more like a businessman looking for an investor.
Exactly. He needed a king or queen to pay for the ships. Ships were very expensive.
You have to buy the wood, pay the sailors, buy all the food.
Right. And Spain finally said yes, because Spain wanted the wealth and the trade.
And they wanted to spread their religion too, right?
Yes, religious influence was also a big part of their goal.
Okay, so that is the why. They wanted money, power, and a shortcut to Asia.
Right. That sets the stage.
So Columbus gets the money, he gets 3 ships, and they leave Europe.
In the year 1492.
Right. And this brings us to the actual journey. And it brings us to a very important word we need to look at closely.
The word discovery.
Yes. Let's spell that out. D-I-S-C-O-V-E-R-Y. Discovery. But first, let's imagine the journey.
It was a very hard journey.
I mean, try to imagine being on one of those wooden ships.
It would be terrifying.
You are a sailor. You are out in the middle of a massive ocean.
And you do not have good maps.
No. The maps were incomplete. You just see water for weeks and weeks.
You must have felt so much fear. The uncertainty would be awful.
Right. You were probably thinking, are we going to fall off the earth? Are we going to run out of food and die out here?
It was a very dangerous risk.
But then eventually they see land.
They reached the islands of the Caribbean.
Right. And for hundreds of years, history books have called this moment a discovery.
Yes. They say Columbus discovered America.
But let's take a slow, careful look at that word.
Okay.
Let's say I'm walking in my town and I find a great little coffee shop.
Okay.
And I run to tell you, hey, I just discovered a new coffee shop.
Right.
Well, from my point of view, it is a discovery. It is new to me.
Yes, to you.
But what about the people working inside the coffee shop? What about the people who already drink coffee there every day?
To them, it is not a discovery at all. They already knew it was there.
Exactly. So what does this all mean for history?
Well, from the European point of view, it felt like a discovery. The land was not on their maps.
Right. But to the native peoples who lived there,
It was already home.
it was home.
It was not empty. These lands were ancient. There were millions of people living there.
They had families. They had deep beliefs and religions.
They had big farms and food systems and complex societies.
So if we keep using the word discovery without explaining this,
It becomes a problem.
yeah, does it accidentally force the listener to only look at history through the eyes of the Europeans?
It absolutely does.
And it kind of just erases the native people from the story.
Yes. It makes it sound like the native people were just waiting in the dark for someone to find them, which is completely false.
It takes away their history. So what words should we use instead?
Many historians today try to use words like contact.
Contact. C-O-N-T-A-C-T.
Right, or encounter.
I like that because contact means 2 groups of people are meeting each other.
Exactly. It allows for multiple perspectives.
It shows that Columbus arrived in a place that was already full of life and complex culture.
Right. It was not an empty map. It was a populated world.
Okay, so if this was a contact, a meeting between 2 different groups, I want to try another thought experiment.
I think that is a great idea.
Let's really spell this out. What did that contact actually feel like for the human being standing on the beach that day?
We need to use some empathy here.
Yes, empathy, meaning trying to really understand how someone else feels.
Exactly.
Let's take this slowly. First, I want you, the listener, to imagine you are a native person.
You are standing on the shore of your home in the Caribbean.
Right. Your family has lived here for a very, very long time. You know the trees, you know the weather,
And then you look out at the ocean.
and you see something you have never seen before. These huge wooden ships.
Like giant floating houses.
Yeah. And out come these people that look very strange.
They are wearing heavy, hot clothing.
Right, in the hot sun.
Yeah.
And they're holding strange, shiny objects, which are weapons.
And they're speaking a language that sounds totally strange to you.
How would you feel?
You would probably feel a lot of curiosity. Like, who are these people?
But also you would feel fear and caution.
Definitely caution. You are seeing something completely unknown.
Okay, now let's switch sides. Let's do the other part of the thought experiment.
Okay, you are a European sailor now.
Right. Imagine you are a sailor. You just spend weeks on a terrifying, deadly ocean.
You didn't know if you would ever see your home again. You probably thought you were going to die.
Yeah. And then you finally step onto solid ground.
The first feeling you would have is immense relief.
Just pure relief to be alive.
Yes. But you are also entirely misunderstanding the people and the place you just found.
Right. Because you think you are in Asia.
Which you are not.
And you do not understand the native people at all. You look at them through your European point of view.
You do not understand their culture or their language.
So this is a very interesting meeting. Both sides are experiencing a moment that will change the world.
Yes, it is a world-changing meeting.
But I have to point something out here. It was a completely unequal relationship.
Unequal. That's a very important word here.
Yeah, because the Europeans did not just bring strange clothes.
No, they brought deadly weapons, swords, and early guns.
And they had a very specific goal. They had political ambitions.
Right. Ambitions of conquest. They wanted to take control of the land and the wealth.
So why do we take the time to do this empathy exercise? Why do we imagine feelings on a beach?
Because practicing empathy in history is crucial. It is the only way we can really understand history.
How so?
Well, it helps us understand human motivation.
Motivation. Why people do the things they do.
Exactly. It shows us why people acted the way they did. It shows us what they feared and what they completely misunderstood.
Right. They weren't just names in a book. They were real humans making choices based on fear and greed.
Exactly. And those human choices had massive consequences.
Which brings us to the next big word in our deep dive today.
Right. The chain reaction.
Yes. That tense, very unequal meeting on the beach, it did not just end there.
No, it did not stop on the beach.
It instantly triggered something huge, a massive, permanent chain reaction across the whole world.
Historians have a specific name for this chain reaction.
What was it called?
It is called the Columbian Exchange.
The Columbian Exchange. Let's really break that down because it is so important.
It is one of the most important events in world history.
So what does exchange mean here? It means trading things, moving things back and forth.
Right. For thousands of years, the eastern side of the world, places like Europe and Africa, were completely separated from the western side, the Americas.
Separated by a giant ocean.
Exactly. So they had totally different plants, different animals, and different diseases.
But after 1492, the ships started going back and forth.
And they carried all of those things with them.
This is the movement of plants, animals, people, diseases, ideas, and goods.
Between the eastern and western hemispheres.
Okay, let's slowly list some of the specific things that were exchanged, because this is mind-blowing when you really think about it.
It really is. Let's start with what the Americas gave to the rest of the world.
Okay, so plants from the Americas that went to Europe.
Right. The Americas gave the world corn.
Corn, which is now everywhere.
Yes. And potatoes?
Wait, potatoes come from the Americas?
Yes, they do.
So all of those famous potato dishes in Europe, they did not exist before Columbus.
No, they didn't. The potato completely changed the global diet. It gave people a lot of energy.
Wow. Okay, what else?
Tomatoes?
Tomatoes. So Italian food before 1492 did not have tomato sauce.
Exactly. It changed everything. And one more big one. Cacao.
Cacao, which is what we use to make chocolate.
Yes. These crops forever changed how the whole world ate food.
Okay, so that went from the Americas to Europe. What came the other way? From Europe to the Americas.
Europe brought many animals. They brought horses.
Horses, that is huge. When we think of Native American history, we often picture horses.
Right, but horses were not there until the Europeans brought them.
That forever changed life in the Americas.
Yes, they also brought cattle, like cows, and pigs.
So it was just this massive, chaotic mixing of living things.
A biological and cultural collision.
It's like a rough draft of the modern, globalized world we live in today.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this exchange tied the whole world together.
It tied Europe, Africa and the Americas together through trade.
But, and this is very important, it also tied them together through colonization, empire, and slavery.
Yeah, we have to talk about that. It created a new global system, but at a terrible human cost.
A truly terrible cost.
So this brings us to the most painful reality of contact. We have to look directly at the word consequences.
Yes. Consequences.
Consequences. The things that happen as a result of an action.
And we have to look directly at the suffering that followed this exchange of goods.
Because it wasn't just happy trades of tomatoes and horses.
No. The arrival of Europeans brought immediate, devastating effects on the native populations.
Let's slowly detail what happened. First, there was violence.
Extreme violence.
Yeah.
The European empires wanted the land and the well.
Right. So there was a massive loss of land for the native peoples. Their homes were just taken.
Taken by force. And then there was forced labor.
Forced labor, meaning slavery.
Yes. Native peoples were forced to work in very harsh conditions. They had to dig in mines for gold and silver.
And this forced labor, it completely disrupted their families.
It broke their families apart. It disrupted their traditional ways of life.
You cannot have a normal family or society if everyone is forced to work as a slave.
No, you cannot. But there is another crucial detail we have to talk about.
Yes, the diseases.
The diseases. This is perhaps the darkest part of the Columbian Exchange.
When the European ships arrived, they didn't just bring weapons, they brought invisible germs.
Right. Germs for diseases like smallpox and the flu.
Now, in Europe, people had lived with these diseases for a long time.
Yes, so their bodies were used to them.
But the native peoples in the Americas,
They had no biological immunity to them?
no immunity, meaning their bodies had zero defense against these new germs.
Exactly. So these European diseases devastated native communities.
It was a sickness that spread incredibly fast.
It led to enormous human loss.
Well,
Millions of people died just from the diseases.
millions is almost too big of a number to even imagine.
It is a tragedy on a massive scale.
I have to ask a question here. Because, again, trying to use empathy to understand human motivation.
Right, trying to understand why people do things.
Yes. How did the European colonizers justify this behavior to themselves?
It is a hard question.
I mean, they are taking land, forcing people into slavery, bringing death. How do they sleep at night? What was their excuse?
Well, to understand that, you have to look at their attitude.
What was their attitude?
The European colonizers genuinely believed they were superior. They believed they were better.
Because of their religion and their technology?
Yes, they believed the native peoples were simply there to be converted to the European religion.
Or to be controlled.
Exactly, to be controlled or used for labor to make Europe rich.
Wow. So they did not see them as equal human beings.
No, they didn't. And when one group of people believes it has a right to control another group,
Profound suffering always follows.
always, throughout all of history.
Okay, so that is a very heavy consequence. And it brings us to the modern debate.
Because the history didn't just stop in the past.
Right. Because Columbus's voyage brought both this new, amazing global connection and also profound destruction.
The shockwaves of 1492 are still happening today.
Yes, we are still having arguments in our society right now, today, about this history.
Columbus remains a heavily debated figure.
Heavily debated. People fight about him all the time on the news.
Yes, because some people look at him and they see courage and exploration.
The brave sailor who crossed the ocean.
Right. But other people look at him and they see colonization and severe injustice.
The man who brought slavery and disease.
And we can see this debate happening in our communities.
Oh, absolutely. Like the holidays.
Yes, the holidays are a perfect example.
For a long time, America celebrated Columbus Day.
A day to honor his journey.
But now there is a modern shift. Many cities and states are changing it.
They are choosing to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day instead.
Right. To honor Native history and to remember the people who suffered because of the contact.
It is a very clear shift in how we remember the past.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, tell me.
When people are fighting over whether to have Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day,
Yes.
this debate isn't actually about the year 1492 anymore.
No, it is not.
It is about us today.
Yes, exactly.
It is about what we as modern people choose to celebrate. It is about what we mourn and whose stories we decide to tell.
That is a brilliant way to say it. Public memory is always debated.
Public memory, like statues in the park or holidays or school lessons.
Right. When we argue about a statue, it shows that history is alive.
History is not just a dead book.
No, Americans use history to argue about identity. They use it to argue about justice and our national values today.
Wow. So by arguing about Columbus, we're really just arguing about what kind of society we want to be right now.
Exactly.
Okay, so with all this complexity,
There is a lot to think about.
there is. We have talked about the wealth, the shortcut to Asia, the tragedy, the diseases, the modern arguments over holidays.
It can feel very overwhelming for a learner.
It really can. How is a careful learner supposed to process all this without feeling totally lost?
Well, our source material gives us a great tool for this.
Oh, good. I love a good tool.
It breaks learning history down into 3 levels.
3 levels of history. Okay, I am listening. Let's take this slowly so everyone can follow. What is the first level?
The first level is the basic story.
The basic story. So what does that mean?
That is the basic facts. What happened, when it happened, and who is involved.
Oh, okay. So the dates and the maps.
Right.
So for Columbus, level 1 is, in 1492, Columbus sailed from Spain, crossed the ocean, and landed in the Caribbean.
Yes, that is level 1. It is just the facts. But you cannot stop there.
Right, because facts without feelings are boring. What is level 2?
Level 2 is the human story.
The human story. Okay.
This level looks at the emotions and choices. What did the people hope for? What did they fear? What did they build and what did they lose?
Oh, so level 2 is the empathy exercise we did.
Exactly. It is imagining the fear of the sailors on the boat and the shock of the native people on the beach.
It is remembering that these were real human beings making choices.
Yes. And once you understand the facts and the human feelings, you go to level 3.
Okay, what is level 3?
Level 3 is the meaning.
The meaning. Why it matters today.
Yes. This is where you look at the short-term consequences and the long-term consequences.
So the meaning of Columbus is that it started the Columbian Exchange, which totally changed the world's food and animals.
Right. And it also started a dark period of colonization that still affects people today.
That makes a lot of sense. The basic story, the human story, and the meaning.
If you use those 3 levels, you can understand any complex historical event.
I really want to reflect on a key theme from the text, using those 3 levels.
Okay.
Because it seems like, to be a mature learner, you must be able to hold 2 conflicting truths at once.
Yes. 2 truths that seem like opposites, but they are both real.
Right. Like you can look at the basic story and acknowledge that Columbus was historically important.
He was. His voyage changed the world forever.
You can recognize that.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, at the exact same time,
Yes.
you can refuse to ignore the deep suffering his arrival caused.
You must refuse to ignore it.
You can hold both. The big world change and the terrible human tragedy.
That is exactly right. And you know, that is really the overarching story of America itself.
What do you mean?
Well, America is a country of many stories. It includes amazing stories of freedom and courage and creativity.
Right.
But it also includes dark stories of exclusion, conflict, and deep suffering.
It is not just one simple thing.
No. To understand history, you have to look at the light and the dark together.
That is very powerful.
It is the only way to really learn.
Well, I think that is a perfect time to briefly recap our journey today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We started by looking at Europe's desperate desire for a shortcut to Asia to get silk and spices.
Right. That ambition pushed ships across a terrifying ocean.
Yes. And when they arrived, it wasn't just a simple discovery.
No, it was a contact between 2 totally different worlds.
And that contact triggered the Columbian Exchange, a new global exchange of goods, but also terrible, devastating disease and colonization.
The consequences were massive.
And those consequences lead straight to the debates we are still having today in our own communities about statues and holidays.
A very clear summary.
Thank you. But before we officially sign off, I know you always have a final thought for us.
I do. A provocative thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it. Something for us to explore on our own.
So think about this. A single voyage in 1492. Driven by a desire for a fast shortcut to wealth.
Right, just a desire for trade money.
It set off a massive chain reaction. Short-term and long-term consequences that we are still debating in our public squares hundreds of years later.
Yeah.
So my question for you, the listener, is this. What choices are societies making today? Yes. What choices are we making today in the name of trade or ambition or new technology?
Oh, wow. Like creating new tech shortcuts.
Exactly. What are we doing right now that future generations will be debating centuries from now?
What is our 1492 moment happening right now?
Exactly. What are we missing because we just want the shortcut?
That is a brilliant question, something that really builds on everything we learned today.
I hope it gives everyone something to think about.
Me too. Well, thank you to everyone listening for joining us on this very careful deep dive today.
Yes, thank you for sticking with us through the complex history.
We hope it helped you think a little deeper about the paper ships on the wall. Keep thinking deeply, everyone.
Keep exploring the past.